let's just start with the stories about how our family came to this area. And I know there's a story about three brothers, the Ramseys, and how they settled this area. And we can just start there and you chime in what you remember as well.
Will do.
Because I've got stories from Bill that are just by memory, so it would be nice to. Okay, you ready?
I heard a story about three Ramsey brothers who immigrated from perhaps Scotland to the Philadelphia area and lived in the Philadelphia area for approximately a year, and then, as so many in their time did, they came down the Great Wagon Road through Virginia, and I'm told that, and this is kind of hearsay as far as I can't prove or disprove any of this.
Yeah.
That one of these three brothers stopped off perhaps around Roanoke, Virginia. There's a at least in the phone book there's many Ramses in the area. That one brother may have come on down to the Rowan County, North Carolina location, and that may be the one that we're descended from. And one brother came on to Madison County around Marshall, and there's just tremendous number of Ramses over there, particularly around the community of Walnut. Yeah. And I know there was a sheriff in my boyhood. A sheriff of Madison County was Sheriff Ramsey from Walnut.
Is that how you remember it too? You remember the same thing?
Yeah.
Now,
I've seen him at the tobacco auction when we first started selling birded tobacco.
Okay. So they came through Marshall, and then how'd they come here?
I've had occasion to discuss this genealogy with some of the Ramses from Madison County, and they think that we're probably from the same source back in Scotland, perhaps. I don't know of any close connection that's ever been claimed or disproven either. Now,
yeah,
the Ramses came to be in Macon County kind of a roundabout way, I guess, from around Rowan County. John Ramsey volunteered to serve a year in the Army of North Carolina to put down an Indian uprising in this area here, and that upon the completion of his year of service to the Army of North Carolina, he was awarded a grant from the state for a square mile of land that somewhere west of what's now Macon County.
Can you stop for a
And-
second? Hold on just a second. Ask him if it was 4,000 acres, if it was a square plot of 4,000 acres.
640 acres.
640 acres.
That's a square mile.
So that's what
And
you...
it was in Graham County.
Yeah, tell him, can
Yeah.
you pick up there for
Well, the grant was originally in Graham County. And his, a friend of his was also in cavalry, got a grant on the head of Tellico. And about a year later, as I get the story, they were bear hunting back on Nantahala. Ran into each other, both of them dissatisfied, and they traded. And that, the Ramseys came to Tellico. That's
And then could you write, I guess the next question would be, so they swapped property and ended up, how'd they get in the valley? How'd they get in
Yeah.
Iola?
All right.
well, he can tell you that they bought,
So they bought acreage. See, I didn't understand that.
yeah,
The legend, I guess, that I've heard from most sources on the Ramsey side is that John Ramsey, after he'd been up here and started to prove up on his claim, as was required, over somewhere west of Macon County, apparently was contacted by a soldier buddy who expressed dissatisfaction with his land claim or grant. And he and John Ramsey apparently just exchanged land grants, and John Ramsey moved, as you can imagine, by perhaps horseback or that, maybe that mode, I don't know, to Tellico in Macon County, and there he married a daughter of a Bryson who lived in the Cowee community, and they raised 10 children. And now that Ramsey and his wife and 2 of the children are buried in the Cowee Baptist Church Cemetery. We know that.
yeah, up on the hill. About
and
halfway up.
That Ramsey, John Ramsey, apparently bought some property in the Iowa Valley, where we live until today.
Hold on just a second. Was he a horse trader? Was John Ramsey a horse trader?
No, that was Grandpa Shug.
Okay, so this is his dad.
Yeah.
Shug's dad.
This is this is our grandfather.
Okay, and what kind of home did he live in? Is he the one that had the
He
log home?
he built a log home that stood right behind the house out here.
Yeah.
And
Tell
yeah,
about the
it was
log
a
home.
2-story log home.
Do you have any pictures of that?
No, I don't think I've ever seen a picture of it.
Or a sketch?
Now, the John Ramsey home, and I understand I was born in this house, is about a half a mile west of where we are at the moment. And that house has been razed or torn down and replaced with a brick home. And more recently, the Bradleys occupied it. So
Okay.
it was before the farm sold a time or two. John Ramsey, who was the youngest son, John Bryson Ramsey, who was the youngest son of John Ramsey, apparently lived there with his wife Texie Kaler, and they raised a large family of boys primarily. There were two daughters, one of whom was Maud, who married Wade Moody, son of the Moody farm, Moody's, just moved over here from Haywood County.
Are we talking about like
And
1830s?
the other daughter was,
Hold on
yeah.
just a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1830s.
I think the date on the deed from William Albert and Rebecca Ramsey, who owned this place here, to John Ramsey was about 1908, I believe. It's a matter of record in the
Yeah.
Macon County courthouse. If you'd like to verify this,
Yeah,
But they,
and
but they settled this
they
area.
settled before. They bought this before.
It was a,
That
did
the
they
whole
settle Franklin?
this was. It included all this property, what Uncle Lawrence had, plus where the schoolhouse and both churches.
Right.
That was all in the one grant. That one, or
I don't know exactly what year John Ramsey bought the original land here in the lower end of Iowa Valley. That again could be established easily in
By
the
records.
Register of Deeds office
Yeah.
in Franklin, in the courthouse. I have recollection that he bought this land here from a land dealer by the name of Albert Seiler, about 1840, I believe.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Were they?
And,
were we were founding families of Franklin?
That is approximately our living here dates back to about that time.
Wow.
Now, my grandmother Ramsey, who was a West, by the way, of reared about 2.5 miles north of here at West Mills. I'm losing my thought train.
you're good. You're
Pardon
fine.
me for.
Yeah.
You're fine. I want to ask Clayton a couple questions.
All right.
So, Clayton, were we founding families? Were we a founding family of Franklin?
no.
Okay.
The Seilers, and well, there were several families here before John Ramsey came in at sometime after the Cherokee removal.
So he wasn't part of removing the Cherokee here.
Not, I cannot tell you that.
Right,
I don't
right.
know for sure. I think that was his duty, was to start the Cherokee removal.
But we were one of the first founding.
Yeah.
We were one of the first families in
Yeah,
Franklin.
oh yeah, it was an early one, and but I can't give you a year.
Well, I do know that Franklin was founded. What year is the sesquicentennial, Margaret? It's 2005. So
It was 1855.
yeah, so we were here predating the town if we were here in the 40s.
Oh yeah, her great, she founded, their founding.
Their
She's
family.
in the
Yeah.
descendant of
Okay.
Jesse.
Yeah.
Jacob Seiler was the
Oh.
first
Yeah, the
white
Seilers
settler in
were the-
Macon County.
They
Yeah.
had most of
That's
it.
another story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
We got to get back to that one.
yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk a bit about what you guys remember about life on the farm. and just what kinds of, you said there was a log home in the back, and what do you remember about growing up here? You start, and then if you'll ask him, and yeah.
All right. Well, the earliest I remember, the old house was still out there. We used it as a smokehouse and storage. And I don't know, Dad had it torn down. He never did like it, so I assume he was born in it. This one was built, I figure about 1890, I think.
76 is what I thought, 1876.
Something.
But tell about how many the children that were that did pick up with John Shook Ramsey and
Well,
Rebecca.
all
And
right,
tell about there.
there was two brothers, William Alberts or Shug, and the John that owned where now the Bradley place is, across the creek. And this property, by the way, Uncle Lawrence and Aunt Clara lived here, and Dad and my mother built the house that you're presently living in. And they was, well, they did not get along well with Grandmother Ramsey, who could be a little difficult at times. And so they traded property. Just traded this farm for that one, moved down here, and we were raised here.
But you were born, and you were born.
I was born in that house.
And Albert learned to walk on the porch.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's a picture somewhere of me sitting
No,
out on the porch.
I was born in the John Ramsey house,
Okay.
Yeah.
about a half mile from here.
Can you tell me what you remember about Modi Keg? Modi Keg, what you remember about the Cherokee Modi Keg?
John, there's an old road that goes from Mama's up our driveways.
Yeah.
My father and mother, Albert and Margaret Ramsey, built the house that you and Dale live in today. And we lived there until I was about 5 years old, and then we moved here into this house. And Uncle Lawrence, who was your grandfather,
Great grandfather.
and Aunt Clara moved from this house to the one up there. Now, before I was 5 years old, there was an Indian man and his wife lived in a log house on that farm up there, and his name was Modi Keg, and his name is on one of the travel roads, I believe around 1924. And by the way, to my knowledge, we're not related at all to the Kegs. We are to the Chastains, who were they were primarily lived around Dahlonega, Georgia, and then apparently traveled, Cherokee being the central lodge of the Cherokee Nation. They traveled back here to Cherokee on occasion. I have no idea why, but the Chastains are, we are related by blood to the Chastains. Now, I'm also related to by way of marriage there again. My mother's grandmother married, well, first off, my mother said that she was Black Dutch and never learned to speak English well.
Wow.
So, in fact, we know that she was Cherokee, purebred probably,
Wow.
and is buried in the Holly Springs Baptist Cemetery over here. I know,
Really?
I've been to her grave. I know where it is.
Wow.
And
So do you remember Modi Keg?
No,
So
I do
only
not.
Albert remembers
Only
Modi
Al.
Keg.
I do not.
So what's your first recollection?
Yeah.
that on Modi Keg apparently lived in a log house that was, I suspect, I don't think he built it probably. It was, I was in it after he left there, and it was just on the right side of the right prong of the branch that comes down by the west side of the house that you live in today. And it was about, I'm going to say by 16 by 20 or something like that. It was one room and a board roof over it. And when I saw it, as I remember, there was, the chimney was falling down. The doors were, there's one, or I can't remember where it's one or two doors. I remember them over 80 years now. And there was a dirt floor in it.
It was
Probably cooked on a fireplace. And I can remember a story my father told. He said, I furnished Modi 2 pigs and the corn to fatten them. And he said, along about Thanksgiving, we always had our hog killing, and we helped Modi slaughter his those 2 hogs that he apparently had raised while he was work for my dad up there. And Dad said he didn't know how the tribe got word of Modi's cachet of meat, pork, but he said that weekend there were several from Cherokee showed up over here, and he said they sung and danced all night long, and he said they left Monday morning. They were here over a weekend and left Monday morning, and he said there wasn't a scrap of those hogs left.
and you saw them coming down the branch, didn't you?
Those hogs got completely
Yeah.
consumed.
Oh, we saw the Indians that would come from Cherokee several times,
Tell me about that.
and they would they'd come through the community, and in fact we fed them lunch out here on the porch. That's but they were selling baskets.
Tell me what they look like. What
Oh,
were they
they
dressed in?
all sizes. Oh, the Indians. Mostly the men wore long black coats. The women long skirts and bright colors. And
Bright colored shirts or necklaces? or
yeah.
what?
I don't remember the jewelry, but
That's cool.
this was in the early 30s, and they'd have all sizes of baskets from a little double woven back up to bushel baskets.
Did your family buy the baskets?
Some of them we'd trade no one had any money at that time, so they would trade some meat or something for.
I'd like to relate one other
Much more.
legend.
Yeah. Well, you remember too them walking up in their coats up the river, and you're telling his mom said not to talk to him. That's what he told me on the phone.
I have a very vague memory of Modi as being moderate in size and height, darker than white in complexion, and my mother was gifted upon her marriage to my dad, I guess, by her father with an organ that when she and Dad moved down here, they got a piano that belonged to Aunt Emma, who died and had it here, and left the organ up there for Aunt Clara. And Mama said on one occasion she was sitting in the living room playing the organ and singing. And she said, I became aware that there's another voice singing along with me. And she says, I looked around, and it was Modi. It was a double width door, French door into the living room, and he was there in that doorway listening to her play the organ, and he knew the words to that hymn, Abide With Me, I believe it was. And he sang along with her as she played the organ.
That's cool.
I don't remember ever talking to Modi. I don't remember, or his wife. I don't think they had any children with them at that time. I remember very distinctly, and I may have related this story to you. I learned to walk on the front porch of that house up there with Muggins, who was a black and white shepherd dog with unusual talent, apparently, because Mama said that Muggins taught me to walk out on that porch, but we'd walk from one end to the other, but he'd always switch and to where he was between me and the outside to keep me from falling off.
Wow.
He'd walk to where I couldn't toddle over and fall off the porch. And I'd grab hold of his wool and walk along with him.
Yeah, there was never a rail on that front porch.
I can remember being out on that porch and looking down the valley, and I saw a group of people come across this bridge over the Iowa Creek down here, and then up the creek, up the South Creek bank. And they'd walk a little ways, and then one of them would go over on the creek bank and do something. And it turned out, it was in the spring of the year, they were probably finding wild onions. And as they walked along, and it turned out that it was about a dozen people, I'm going to say 12 to 15, from the tribe in Cherokee, who were visiting Modi and his wife, and they came up and walked up. I can remember, up by between the garden and the crib shed, And it was the spring of the year, I believe, and men and women both had on men's felt hats, and most of them had on an overcoat. And I was told later on, perhaps, that they made about a 2-day trip by foot from Cherokee over here, and where they spent the night, they probably just rolled up in the leaves, and that overcoat was, and the leaves probably were their bedclothes for that night.
And they were down there by the spring, right? They would sleep by the spring, where the water was. They would sleep. Is that where they would sleep? Is that where they went to sleep? They went camp. I think that's what he told me.
Well,
There you go.
it could be coming from Cherokee up College Creek. You'd come through the Big Laurel, and there was several springs up there on top of the County Mountain.
No, over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over here at the house. At the house. I know he's gonna be tired.
Well,
Like, let's go get some water.
And you're got
5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
there's
It's okay.
Yeah.
you just know that the Cherokee built their houses with logs in later years. Now, back in early years, we don't know what, because there are no remnants even left of them. But they apparently had so they had seen log houses where the whites, and then that knowledge passed quickly, and I'm pretty sure that I remember the log house that Modi lived in was could have been built by the early whites, but I don't think so. I think
He built it.
and it was built near a spring,
See,
as all. I mean,
everybody built it.
Except this one.
Right? Because you guys is freaking
see, they had gourds to carry water in, but they also had pottery. There was a spring out here between your house and this house, and that first hollow this way.
Yeah.
That
Down
We
the
still
boundary
use it.
between the two farms.
Oh, which one?
my son here, Joe and Ralph, would go on Sunday afternoon. They go pottery hunting or artifact hunting, and they found that near a spring out there, just a treasure trove of
Beautiful.
Is that big?
Wow.
Yeah.
pottery. So apparently, they didn't know how to make pottery, and even to decorate it.
Yeah, you want to change the tape? Are we done here on this tape?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Oh, at one time was a lake, a
I've
natural
heard
lake.
that too.
That
I've got
where
a
the
few.
bridge is down here, there was a natural granite dike, an upthrust, and it was a lake bed from there up to about the Huggins Bridge. And it silted in. And, but when the Indians were living here back prior to the white settlement, that was a lake.
These fields down here, flat fields, were pretty well alder bushes and swamps.
Bottom.
They had to be hand ditched and to get the water drained out before. And Dad said that when he was a boy, every rainy day that they had and they couldn't work in the fields, his job was to take an old gentle mare that they had here and what they called a bull-tongue plow, which is a single foot plow with a steel point on it. And he'd take that mare and put her in the creek down here, and he'd plow up and down the creek
We need to do it now. It's all messed up.
to
Yeah.
agitate sand and the rock to where it kind of in flood, it washed the channel out. And you can see today how in dry weather particularly, you can see how that creek is meandering like a snake crawling.
The grandmother called it a golden thread of water that quenches the thirst of. Like we have a letter from Rebecca, a poem, and she talks about the water and how special it was. So.
I was named after
Well,
her.
Oh,
one time,
really?
every time it rained, the Iola Creek was from hill to hill.
That they
It
traded?
flooded.
No,
Uh,
that came from Mom's family.
They have
Oh, wow.
lowered that granite dike.
Wow.
They
That's a
drilled it and shot it out
Right.
to lower the creek there, and it helped drain the bottom.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
we just went
But they were
Joe.
just a swamp when I was growing
Well,
up.
we, over there, sometimes if it rains real heavy, it'll pour across the road.
Yeah.
Joe.
And I could imagine, you know,
Oh,
if
it
that dike
was,
was
it
still
was
in
just like
place.
a lake.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
just,
I need to go to the little boys.
Yeah. You need to help Joe up. I mean, help.
Bet